morning. আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে। ওকে ম্যাম, ঠিক আছে। উনি তো সেন্টারেই আছেন। ঠিক আছে। আহ, হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, সেট হয়েছে, আমি স্টার্ট করে দিয়েছি।
Morning, Deblina.
Oh, can I test my voice? Good morning. Thank you, SAADRI. Is my voice audible? I cannot hear you yet.
Hi, Deblina.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, audible. Am I
Hi,
visible enough?
Hi, good morning.
Hi,
Can
good
you
morning.
hear me, Miss Atisa?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can
Okay.
I try to share my screen first so I can display the Menti, but I don't know how to share my screen in here.
You are Debalina?
Do you know how to share the screen?
Tisa, I think you are in attendees. Maybe in attendees it's not
Option.
possible to share the screen.
There should be an option for share content next to the stop video button.
Okay, I think because I'm at the attendee, so I can share my screen.
Yeah, you have to click it, and there will be two options like share the entire screen or share only some tabs. So you can switch among that. So if you click the screen one, it will share the entire screen.
Let me try. Actually, I don't see any option to share my screen in my laptop. So maybe
Just a moment. Debalina? Hello, Debalina.
Morning.
Morning. Morning, Shiva. Morning, Debolina. Morning, Rajiv.
Morning, good morning, Didi, good morning, Rama, how are you?
Good. Busy with the West Java earthquake that just happened.
The speakers have not yet joined, right?
Only Shiva is here, but he is not he will be at the end.
Okay,
So we need the other speakers.
okay. Maybe Rajesh is still sleeping, so let me wake him up. The participants have joined already. I see 10 of
10
them, right?
participants, yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Debolina.
Good morning, ma'am.
So, Debolina, I believe you can give a reminder to your speakers. Probably Rajoshi already Rajiv has contacted.
I have contacted Andra as well.
She is telling I cannot log in. Please ask them to allow me. So, Devalina, can you check with Rajesh? I think
Yes,
he is
I'm
possibly
checking.
waiting or something. The link I received is not working. That's what he said.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Morning, morning, Shiva.
Good morning, Professor. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
Shiva, do you know Professor Rajiv Shah and Dr. Rahema?
Professor Rajib Shah, I met him when he visited IIT Roorkee last time for a talk in humanities department. And he also visited our center for an interaction.
Okay.
And Dr. Rahema is
Yes,
doing many things. Rajiv can actually describe those different hats. Today she is here as main person of you Inspire, that young people's platform.
very glad to know.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Shiva. And about the MCQ, so Tita has developed it together with the Balina, but Tita is in the attendee, so she cannot share screen. Is it possible to have Tisa to the panelist so she will be able to share screen.
Dr. Hanifa, can you be a bit louder? Your voice is not clear.
Oh, sorry. So, Atisa, our member from Alliance, Inspire Alliance, has developed the tools for the MCQ together with the Balina. But because she is in the attendees, not in the panelist, so she cannot share screen. Is it
Yeah,
possible to move her to the panelist so she will be
yeah.
able to share screen?
Debelina, can you please make her panelist? Can you pronounce the name again, Miss Hanifa?
Atisa,
Atisa, okay.
Atisa.
Yeah. Debelina, you have to make Atisa Putti from You Inspire Alliance as a panelist.
Okay, sir, I'll add her.
I just talked to Parveen, and Parveen is now having a class, so she will join at 12:10. Her class is up to 12. So no, 12:10 her class will finish, and then she will join. She is the second speaker, but the important thing is Rajesh. So
Shiva,
Parveen
can you
got-
check that Dr. Rajushi gets the contact,
Okay, ma'am.
the link? Yeah.
the link which we send is not working.
I have sent to Dr. Rajarshi the link again, so I hope you'll be able to join.
Okay.
Yeah, now the first speaker is there. Good.
Sorry about it. Like, I think there's a problem because IIT also use the same platform. So whenever I'm trying to log in, so the IIT kind of Delhi account is kind of logging in. So, I had to change my sort of laptop and to start this one. Okay, so
Yeah, I think it's the friendship between two IITs.
yes, that's why I think. So kindly allow me 2-3 minutes because I have to transfer the PPT file from my.
Sure. Because there will be some introduction and all these things. So
Okay.
I think your actual presentation will start maybe from 12:15 or so.
Right. Okay. So
So
just
till now,
12:15 Japan
Rajushi is
time.
in Japan time.
no, I'm in Indian time, but the system, the I am still trying to figure out the complexity of the computer system over here. So you have multiple passwords for multiple things, and I sort of getting lost in all those things. And what the problem is, like the computer I was using right now is logged in into IIT's network. So therefore, the whatever I put, the my institutional account is opening up. So there is some kind of problem because they also use the WebEx platform. Zoom is much better, I guess. But anyway,
I think it is time, so let's start. And
Yes, good morning, everyone. I welcome you to this critical writing workshop. Um, First, I would like to request Professor Mahua Mukherjee to give a introductory comment.
Thank you, Devolina. Uh, Very good morning to all of you, the panelists and the attendees who are going to attend this particular workshop. This particular workshop is not a very common thing, I believe, because this probably one particular area we who are in academics, we felt that we really need to do it quite regularly so that all of you who are really brilliant researchers, you can really bring out your ideas in a more I will say, effective way so that you know exactly how to reach the people, whether they are going to be the other peer group or the users of your entire result outcome. So from that particular background only, we had this discussion, and I'm so very happy. Professor Rajiv Shah, who always champions causes, especially for the young people, he immediately agreed, yes, on the platform of SAADRI, Keio, and You Inspire and BRIN, we can easily go for this type of program. And frankly speaking, we are thinking this critical writing workshop will not be only one. It's a seasonal program. We believe that with you people's support, we can keep on going it, and it is going to really plug the gaps, especially for the researchers who are working in the South Asian region. Uh, I believe that you can really find many useful uh, discussions here which can enrich your own experience, and it can help you to grow as a researcher, and your communication becomes more effective. With these words, I would like to welcome all of you again, and I thank my partners on behalf of SADRI. Over to you, Debolina.
Devalina, you are on mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your comments. Now I would request Professor Rajiv Shah to give an introduction to this workshop.
thank you very much, Devalina, and a very good morning to all of you, and a warm welcome to the first critical workshop, writing workshop, jointly organized by SAADRI, India Japan Lab of Keio University Inspire Alliance, and BRIN Indonesia. I thank, as Professor Mukherjee also pointed out, I thank also all our partners, especially herself, Professor Mukherjee, Devolina, and the team in SAADRI to make it happen. Also, a big thanks to all our esteemed speakers. So there is, I think, another speaker who will be joining soon, and who themselves are actually great academics and great writer, and also our moderator, Rahma. So you know that why, like, we put the title as a critical writing workshop. So why critical? The name itself says that yes, it has to be reviewed by someone. Like what we are possibly trying to focus here, not a story writing or a novel writing, where you can actually express yourself. And I'm sure that many of you will possibly write books or stories and novels in future, which is possibly not there that much. And I would love to see more disaster-related novels coming up from many of you. But before going to that stage, possibly, I think all of us need certain level of very basic process of how we write a critical paper with logic, with methods, with an hypothesis, evidence, analysis, and then discussions. Many of you are the graduate students, and I think it is essential for a graduate student to conduct this writing of the paper or thesis. Like, as you know that even in thesis, we have a number of examiners. You express your own view with logic, then examiners will read that one and then give you critical points, critical comments, suggestions for improvement. And the same thing is for the paper as well, that you write something, then an anonymous reviewer, he or she will try to find out, try to see that whether your logics are acceptable. And then sometimes if it is not, it got rejection. If it is needs some modification at different level of changes, and if it is acceptable, it got accepted. So I know that some of you are possibly having different skills. Some of you are good field worker who possibly work very much with the community. Some of you are good speaker. Some of you are good possibly modeler who does different types of modeling or experiments. Some of you are possibly excellent professionals, because in our graduate school system, we have also the career professionals. But writing, possibly different of you have different types of skills. And our main intention of this particular workshop, this will be actually a series of workshops we will be conducting in future as well. But this is the first one, and just to try to give you some basic essence of what are the key principles of critical learning, what are the good examples of critical learning, and how you can actually improve your writing skill. I personally always tell my students that there will be hardly a few people, I think, including yourself, who will read your thesis after your degree is done. So the thesis, which is, it also needs an critical writing process. So yes, after your thesis examinations is over, possibly you will not read the thesis again. Most of the time it happens. But when you write a paper and other published literatures, whether it is in the form of book or book chapters or something, I think people will refer or cite them to further and bring it forward to the research. So I think it's very essential that what we write, it follows some ethical standard. It also provides some transparent methodology as well as data collection, and it gives a proper logic of your observation. So it is not the question of right or wrong. Like, you need to be sincere in making or showing that this is the data we have collected, this is the process we have, methodology we have followed, this is the analysis we have done. So I think that sincerity is very, very important. And then you need to defend yourself with the argument possibly a reviewer will pose or challenge. And internationally, this whole review process has high respect. So we always respect the refereed journal paper. Rajesh will tell you later that while we were doing the IPCC work for the sixth assessment report, IPCC can only refer to the refereed journal paper, not the reports, or not possibly some other forms of literature, which we usually term as gray literature. Yes, of course, there are good stuff in the gray literatures, and possibly in your writing thesis, or writing maybe paper, sometimes we have to review the gray literature. But I think the refereed or reviewed journal paper has somehow its standard that it has been reviewed by two or more referees, And that's why it gets a little bit higher respect. And of course, later Rajoshi or Parvin or our other colleagues will tell you that different levels of journals which are categorized as Q1, Q2, Q3, depending on their ranking, their review process, their transparency, their acceptance rates, their citation index. So there are so many different other issues which actually define a specific journal. So my main message here is that, yes, the journal writing paper is a challenging job, but it is worth trying. Possibly you will be the saddest person when the journal, when your paper is rejected upfront without even a review. And it happens. It happens many times. Even my paper sometimes get rejected. So it like, okay, that we submit something, the reviewer did not think that, or even the edit, even going to the reviewer before that, even the editor thought that maybe this is not applicable, this is not suitable to the journal, and it got rejected. But I guarantee you that you will be the happiest person when finally, with all the painful review process, you get one mail that finally your paper has been accepted for publication. And when it is the first time you get that mail in your life, I think that's possibly one of the happiest moment. And at least to me, it was, I still remember my own university days during master's thesis, when I wrote my first paper and when I got that particular, and that time there was no mail. It was by post. So it comes in an envelope that, okay, this paper title, this has been accepted on this date. So that was the happiest moment of my life, at least in my academic life, I can say. So let me just finish this particular message by saying that there is no perfect writer. There is no definition of being a perfect writer. Each of you has your own writing style. And our intention of this particular workshop is not to change your writing style, but you keep your writing style, but have some proper level of improvement, which is accepted widely by the people who have possibly not gone to the field, who are possibly not from your country, who are possibly don't understand the context. So it is like an universal acceptance of your writing. And that's the most important part of this whole process. So there are always scope of improvement. There are always learning. So please do not be shy in this whole process. Please try to ask any questions, any clarifications all through this seminar. So I wish that you will have a good mutual learning, and it's always an improvement process. So don't think that, okay, after this seminar I will be a perfect writer. There is nothing called a perfect writer, and we always learn and try to improve our learning. So with that words, thank you very much once again for all our participants as well as our esteemed speakers to join us. For some of your time zone, it is a little bit early in the morning, especially those who are joining from South Asia. So thank you very much for joining, and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Rajiv Shah, for briefly stating the need of writing, critical writing, and also inspiring the young minds to write more. Now I'd request Dr. Nureni Rehma Hanifa to outline the workshop objectives to our attendees.
Thank you very much, Nibalina, and thank you very much, Prof. Mahua and also Prof. Rajito for this very important critical writing workshop. Also for me, as a young professional, can you hear my voice?
Amma, you need to speak a little bit louder.
Is my voice better now?
Much better, but try to bring it a little bit closer to your mouth. If you are using
Is it better now? Still not better.
Yes, I think it's much better. Much better. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Prof. Mahua and also Prof. Rajib Shah and all the speakers here. Greeting from Indonesia. I think this is really something that we need as young professionals to how can we develop our skill and also our experience in writing so that we can be also like Prof. Raji, Prof. Mahua, who has many writings, and also like our prominent speaker here. Thank you very much to Rajarsi Dasgupta, Miss Kushan Ara Parvin, and also Dr. Endra Gunawan. Being able to write will also provide our all that we have put into effort into a writing, and it will be our legacy that we can leave to other people in the other part of the world. So the objective of the critical workshop that we have developed together is to develop our skill on how to be able to think critically. So when we read something, we not just only accept it, but also we can think critically and see what is the improvement, what is also what are things and items that we can still improve for the other research items. How to develop our skill in writing, and also how to develop our communication skill, especially for example for us who are not native English, but we need to publish using English. So I think developing the communication skill, writing skill, so that other people can understand what we are doing and also the message that we are providing is really something critical. Then the next objective is also to strengthen our capability to document, and also to how to develop a methodology and approach for data collection which is systematic and acceptable. Sometimes when we write the publication, the data approach is being questioned by the reviewer. So being having a good data set, good data collection, documentation and methodology is something that we need to also have the skill. The third one is to leverage our ability for scientific publication, which is very important. How to use a scientific approach, how to make the review, how to write all our findings and all our effort. Maybe we put 3 years to make one scientific publication, but sometimes maybe when we are in the level of Prof. Rajib, very fast can write the publication. For us, maybe it still took very long time. So having a more skill for scientific publication. The fourth is to strengthen the skill to develop easy to understand knowledge writing production, so that other people can understand easily what we are writing and can follow our process, our procedure, our method, and also understand our result, what is the novelty, and also what is the challenge and the way forward of our research. Then most importantly as well is to develop networking between young professionals, but also between young professionals with prominent international expert and publisher. I think this is a very expensive experience for us to learn from prominent expert that we have here today. So we can learn from the best experts in writing scientific publication. And echoing what Prof. Mahua has mentioned, it will be also very good if we can conduct this critical writing workshop not only one time, but maybe 1 year 2 times or something like that, so we can also develop our skill and continue our effort, and also having interaction so we can leverage our skill. So I think that will be the objective of our critical workshop, and we really thank you that we have prominent speakers together with us, and also prominent organizer together with us, for us to learn about this critical writing for scientific publication, and also for easy to understand knowledge writing production. Thank you very much, and looking forward.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rahma Hanifa, for outlining the objectives of this workshop. Now, moving on, I'd request Dr. Rajarsi Gupta from IGES Japan, who is our first speaker, to give his presentation.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. Just okay. Just a minute here. Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. I don't know what happened. There's some problem always.
Dr. Rajeshri, you can try sharing the entire screen.
Okay.
Once you click the share option, if you select the screen one, means the entire screen.
Okay. But I think this is the same screen which I'm sharing. Can you see this PPT now?
No.
Not yet. Oh my God. Mm, okay, maybe there is some problem. Can I share the PPT to you and you can display that PPT on your screen?
Yes, sir, sure.
Yeah. Okay, then let me share it with you. Debolin or share. I shared that. Can you please show that? They're not accepting me for some reason. Okay, so by the time Debolina shows this in the screen, let me start.
Sir, may I ask where have you sent the
I
presentation?
think the same email ID Debolina Roy.
Okay, sir.
This is very small PPT, so you can download easily. So let me give my background, and then I think it would be easier for you to kind of understand what my perspective are on writing a paper. So my topic of today's discussion, I think Debolina can show the screen somewhere. So I'll be talking about 10 tips to avoid a rejection. So basically, we all are researchers. We do write papers, and we do get, as Professor Rajiv Shah mentioned, that we do get a lot of rejections. Hmm. And therefore, I would try to sum up my experience first as a writer, because I believe I have published a good number of papers. So I know some kind of some key tips which helps you get going. And apart from that, I also serve as an editor of 3 4 important journals, including Sustainability Science, which is 7+ impact factor. So and I do review an editor's job at a regular basis, and believe me, my default mode is reject. So so whenever I start I receive a submission, my default mode is I have to reject this paper, and I have to find criteria to reject it. So that's my default. And if somebody passes those bars, then there are steps to get convinced. Okay, this paper is good. This paper is okay. It is a little bit better. We should send it for review. So this is the how way I proceed in kind of in my editorial job. So from those experience, I'll try to give you a bit brief perspective, particularly for those who are PhD students who are kind of writing it for first time. I understand the frustration when you get a bad comment from the reviewers, or even for the editor, as Professor Shaw mentioned, that sometimes you also get the next reject. So let me sort of give some highlights on those things. By the way, my affiliation got recently changed, so although I am still attached to IGS, the Institute for Global Environment Strategies. But apart from that, I'm also currently working as an assistant professor at the Indian Institute of Technology in Delhi, so where I work on several disaster and climate change issues. Okay, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so first and foremost thing, I think the many PhD students, they make a mistake, is to they choose a wrong journal. So can you please go on all the points here? So when we select a journal, so many of time I have seen that uh, the PhD students, they don't have a fair idea about which journals they should submit. Sometimes it is driven by their supervisors, so they ask them to submit somewhere. But most of the time, what I find that they do not really understand the scope of the journal. So before even if you submit the paper, please understand that the scope, what kind of scope the journal accepts, because many a time your paper or your kind of thoughts or your kind of argument doesn't fall in within the scope. So in this case, most of the time we dex reject those papers. So if it is beyond our scope, we dex reject the papers. Second important things to consider, and you must consider because you are a PhD student and you have deadlines to follow. So please do not submit in a journal which has a track record of slow review, and sometimes it gets year and a half. So there are some journals. If you just go into the journal, like the archives of the journal, you can see the average publication time. Most of the journals now come with a kind of a summary of publication time required for the kind of average publication time. And then a couple of important thing is like thematic coverage. So you can take some help of currently there are the Elsevier journal finder. There's a very important web page where you can actually paste your abstract of your paper, and then they recommend the kind of closest match of the journal. So this kind of, if you do this kind of analysis, you'll find that where your paper suits the most. Because if you submit in a wrong journal or kind of wrong thematic domain, so it might go under review, it might go for review by chance, but then again there is high possibility that will be rejected. Again, the very important part is like you need to understand your scope of your paper. For example, sometimes I find people submit a very local interest paper in high impact fertile journal. For example, you are studying a very small municipality in in your country or kind of some islands or etc., and then you submitted a kind of global journal like Global Environment Change or something like that. So I can guarantee that paper will be rejected because that's not serving the interest of the audience. So you need to really find the geographical coverage of this journal. There are good, very very good journals for local studies like regional environment change or local environment, etc. But there are many journals which are targetfully made for global audience. So please be very considerate. If your study is locating a local kind of scale, do not submit into a kind of a global journal. And most importantly, some of the time, there are article processing charges. And nowadays, with a lot of open access kind of journals coming into the market, so most of the journals, or a good number of the journals, they charge for publication. So if your research budget supports, if your institute supports that, that's well and good. But if it doesn't support, then it is a big problem, because once your paper is fully processed and then you are not able to pay the APC, so this kind of thing makes you really nervous. So make sure that you have sufficient budget, or submit to those journal or those issues where APCs are not applicable. So this kind of issues I have experienced with my. Yes. Next slide, please. Okay, so second kind of important point, and that's you should know. So all the editors, they do not read your paper; they just read your abstract. So as Professor Rajiv Shah mentioned, that the first stage is that when you submit a paper, it goes to the editor of the journal, or some cases there are multiple editors. So the handling editor, they screen the papers based on the topic or headline. Yeah. And then they just read the abstract. They do not go with the entire paper. If your abstract is good and it is sort of giving a clear and noble finding, then they tend to read the entire paper. But most of the time, editors, they don't find the abstract interesting, or it is kind of a boring or repetition studies. By the way, repetition studies is very important if you are targeting a good a high impact journal paper. So just merely study area change is not enough. Sometimes I have seen papers, they are copying somebody else methodology, somebody else kind of already an established methodology, and just the study area is changed, or the population of the survey population is changed. So that's not a kind of noble study, and people do understand. The editors do understand it's a kind of a copy paste research. Just the study area or some part of it has been changed. So therefore, if you are very particular about good publishing in good journals or very high impact factor journals, make sure that your abstract communicate a very novel and clear finding. Without that, I'm sure that that paper will not go into the next stage. So that's kind of very very important tips which I believe. Yeah. And next slide please. Okay, so assume for now that your paper is under review. So the editors found your abstract quite interesting, and then he has or she has sent it for reviews. And the review, as we already discussed, the review is a very critical part of this entire academic publication. And most of the time, or I would say the 100% of the time, the papers land up into the subject expert. So those who are reviewing your paper, you can be rest assured that they are subject expert in their subjects. They might be a little bit biased on geography, on kind of several aspects, but they are subject experts. And believe me, and when I review, I sometimes I feel like this the introduction part of the paper is not really good. The literature review would have been much better and all this. But the paper is primarily rejected for a bad methodology. Can you go to the points, please? Yep. Yeah. The next here. Yeah. So once you write a paper, so the very important part is your methodology. And I always say to my friends and colleagues and students that be very very particular of the methodology, even if you don't feel like writing those things. You can put dates, or if a number of people you have interviewed, or number of surveys, or number of samples, the area, locality. Be very precise on those things, because that counts. People, that gives you a kind of scientific flavor that this person has done all the medical details and all this. And please do remember that uh, you are writing a scientific paper, and therefore people really want that particular method or kind of assessment or whatever you are doing is replicable. So if you in case of you have done this, in case if I do the same thing, I should be able to reach the same results. So therefore the methodology part is really really important, and you need to consider that thing very particularly. And sometimes I think it's really helpful if you are using a conceptual diagrams, and I think that's the kind of my personal choice. When I feel when I see that some people has really develop a nice flow diagram of the methodology, particularly related to the high processing papers. Like for example, somebody used some remote sensing or GIS tools, so they have multiple operations they have done. So instead of writing it kind of in a clumsy way, you can kind of share a in a flow diagram. That really helps. And if you are convinced by the methodology, I can guarantee you your paper will not be rejected. It might be you receive a major revision or something more than that, but they will not. If your methodology is solid, people will reconsider, and they will ask you to rewrite the introduction, add literature review or something like that. But if your methodology is poor, that would be rejected. The people will not consider you anymore. So please be very very strong on the methodology part. So that's my one of the important observation. Next slide please. Okay, so this is again a bit controversial, and I think some our academic world is a little bit biased towards quantitative studies, quantitative analysis, and therefore use of statistical analysis is often accepted or often appreciated by the reviewers or even the editors. The reason being, like if you are saying, just for example, you are comparing two groups, you can communicate the same message that okay, I find a difference between male or female or something like two groups. But if you come with a little bit of statistical analysis, simple t-test, you can just simple t-test or some comparison with some statistical kind of analysis, that really helps convincing the reviewer or editors that okay, you have put effort on this, you are just not stating a mere average of this thing. So this is one thing, like there is a very common there is a, like, the old saying that there are three kind of lies. So lies, damn lies, and then statistics. So this is the three kind of lies, but use those statistics really help your paper to get highlight, and people do accept better statistical thing. But one of the important thing what I often find is like the taste they perform, and that's also a matter of controversy, because sometimes I feel like particularly related to social science papers, the taste which they perform is not the appropriate taste. So whatever taste you choose to highlight your sample or data or your result, so be very specific, or be double check that you are doing the right test, because that's one point of friction between you and the reviewer, because sometimes the reviewers don't really feel that you have done the right test. Many often I find a comment that possibly this is not the right test and you have to do these other tests and all this. So once you kind of do the test, and that's kind of the process part of it, talk to your supervisor, talk to your peers and colleagues that you are doing this test to analyze these results or this kind of data. And if they are all convinced, I think you can go ahead with the test. Just do not do the test arbitrarily. So that's one point. Next slide, please. Okay. One of the major thing which I feel, particularly with young researchers and early career researchers, when they write paper, is that sometimes the entire paper reads the same from the starting from the introduction to conclusion. You will find the same problem is being stated in the introduction as well in the conclusion. So the problem is like I feel like sometimes they lose the track, and this is mostly related with the writing part of it. But one way to control that you do not repeat the same thing over and again is to understand that what you are writing, your purpose of writing. For example, if you say that climate change is going to change the impact the humanity, so that's kind of a proven fact, and you cannot just write it on in the entire paper. So the reviewer or editor would be frustrated with this kind of statements. Better to use more logical kind of. It doesn't matter if your paper is short. So there is a common misconception and all this, that if the paper is short, uh, people might not like it and all this. So nowadays, even the best paper is possibly somewhere between 3,000 to 6,000 words. Beyond that, people really find it hard to read all those papers. Uh, but the point here is like when you are writing, be very very specific that you do not repeat the same logic in the introduction and then some argument in the discussion. One of the way of summarizing information, as you already know, that you can use tables and maps quite wisely. For example, if you are showing a location, you do not need to really furnish the table of all the location. You can just make a map, put the coordinates, and show the locations over there. Use some kind of GIS techniques to improve the quality of the diagrams and all this. So that is one important thing. If you write tables after tables, we had 34 locations and all this. People are those who are reviewing those papers might get annoyed with all those things. And then if you have opportunities, and if you have tools to understand, if you can handle tools, you can use some of the tables, figures, and infographics wherever you can really put them. But having said that, do not overpopulate with figures and tables. Sometimes 5 to 7 figures are good enough for try to restrict within 5 and all this. But if you can really come up with an infographic diagram to summarize some kind of thoughts, some arguments, that would be really appreciated by the reviewers, or kind of the editor itself. And please do not make generic statements, because some of the initial writers, the early writers, they and that comes with experience. The more you write, the more you understand that this is a generic statement and this is a more pinpoint statement. So people are interested in what kind of findings you are kind of establishing through your paper, not necessarily what is already proven facts, like the climate change impacts humanity and all this. So therefore, whenever you write, be specific how that kind of conclusion is coming out of your study, rather than giving a very generic kind of outcome of your study. So whenever you write, please be considered that this statement is has to come, has to relate some of your findings. That is very, very important. Next slide, please. Okay. Okay, so this is again a bit controversial, but this is my sixth point, and personally, I am a victim of it. So the point is, you are not writing a poetry. So you might be very good at English, so you really write good English, and you have very good literature skills and all this, and therefore you write very flowery English. Maybe can you put, yeah. Yeah, so good English does matter, very, very important, but do not be too flowery. So I am personally a victim of it. Sometimes I write long sentence with little bit of abundant use of adjectives. So please be very careful not to do those things, because you are writing a research paper. So your literature skill will be appreciated somewhere else, but here people are interested on your science skills. And one of the important part is like, and when I read very important, like very high impact papers, where you will find that the messages is very short and simple. So there is no kind of flowery adjectives, very simple way of communication. So what we call the Keats principle is to keep it short and simple. Like the sentence should be short, and it will be very simple to communicate the message what you like. uh, and then try to be crispy in your writing. And I'm having said that, I know that for many of us who are not a native English speaker, it might be a little bit difficult to at the initial stage to be very crispy in your writing. But one way to learn it is to read some good papers, so where they have used, very uh, mm, uh, kind of very there's a kind of subtle way to bypass all these big words and all this, but you can be very crispy giving the message around. And uh, on top of everything, you need to really consider how your message, which should be a very noble and clear and exciting message, people will be very eager to read those statements, so that floats on the entire paper. So maybe you start with a para with a very no new kind of exciting message, and then follow it up a little bit of discussion. So that's the ideal way of writing. Again, having said that, I must say that this is not the way to write, but you can have your own way. But I find those who write in a crispy way is very easier to read, and sometimes very easy to follow also for non-native speakers too. We are all at some point of time, I don't know about the other researchers, but I have received comments like, oh, your English is not good, you have to upgrade your English. And that is a common review comment, and we sometimes get frustrated with this kind of comments. Please check it. So if you have access to an English speaking friend, there's no harm giving the paper to him or her before you submit that paper. So if you have a good English speaking friend, or a native English speaker friend, fortunately I had some, so I give the papers to them. They kind of review it for me and give some very interesting comments and good comments to improve my logic flow and all this. So and there are some services also, like if you have money, or your project or your professor has a lot of money, then you can really outsource it for some kind of formal English editing. But most of our time, I think the friends and the colleagues do like they do a much better job than the editing services. I have experienced both of them, the formal editing services, and as well as the informal, the friend network and all this. So the friend network does really well. Okay, the next point, please. Yeah, so this is really, really important. So please do not submit a half cooked paper. And by the main half cooked is like, I have received many papers from students which are really incomplete papers. Unless you are satisfied with your draft, how can you expect your reviewers or editors will be satisfied? So by the mean a half cooked paper, I have seen like there are many spelling mistakes with simple word. If you just turn on the grammar in Word, that will identify the spelling mistake. There are many spelling mistakes. These are kind of common thing. Some references are missing, so do believe me that people do check the references. For example, if you are saying something very exciting, and a reviewer or editor must go to the reference and cross check it whether that you are really citing the proper reference. And that time, if they do not find the reference listed in the reference list, they are really get annoyed, like where from these are coming. So please make sure that you submit a very important kind of these things, like small things to take care of. Uh, Sometimes, or most of the times, I feel people submit graphs without coordinates, so they do not give the axis names and all. These are little things, but it has very high impact or strong impact on the reviewers. The labels are missing, figures, for example, maps without coordinates. So these things has to be taken care of. And please be careful when you submit it next time. These are things which make impressions. Like if you submit a paper with a very neat and clean kind of formatting, spacing and formatting is also one page is a two spaced and then one page is single spaced. So these things are very, very important for making an impression. Forget about the content of the paper, but for a reviewer, for an editor, it's very important that they get the message that you are really worked hard on this paper. So be very particular about these things. The next point, please. Yeah. And then take revisions very seriously. So when your paper is read by just before that, let me tell you a small story. All this review process, except couple of paid journals, is voluntary. So that means that me or whoever is reviewing this paper, so they are doing it on a voluntary basis, and therefore they are investing a good amount of time to read your paper, judge your paper, and then give comments based on their understanding. And when I find that the reviewed version more or less is the same thing, the original, without any major changes. For example, I have suggested changes in that, or asked for doing some major changes in that manuscript, and I receive a revised version which is more or less the same, with a little bit of red and green somewhere coming in the paper. So that really I get frustrated with this. I have put a lot of effort in this paper, and in return what I'm getting is kind of the same version over and again. So therefore, when you are particularly in case of major revisions, when you receive a major revision, please give a good thought on it. Start working from the day one whenever you receive the revision version, because sometimes you just keep it, and then when the deadline approaches, and put it then again. Yeah. So please start working on this. Try to address the comment the best extent possible. I know sometimes there are comments which are not possible. For example, your sample size is too low, so you cannot really help it, because you cannot really do a new sampling and all this. But within the boundary also, you can really justify those things with some kind of logic. And this is we are doing a kind of pilot survey and all this. The whole point is, like, try to address the comment to the best of your abilities, and make sure that the reviewer should understand that you have put effort. And even if you cannot match their expectation, but at least they should be able to understand that you have put a lot of effort to those things. And your response also should reflect the knowledge and hard work you have put in the revision, because for a revision is as important as writing the original manuscript. Because sometimes the review comments, I can share one of my experience. We submitted a paper in Nature Communication. The review comments were around 18 pages. 18 pages review comment. You can imagine, to respond that comment would take 36 pages. So it's like it goes in a geometric proportion. So do take the review comment very, very seriously. And once you take seriously, that doesn't mean can you get to next slide, please? Uh, that doesn't mean that you have to accept everything. The bottom line is that be polite to your reviewers, even if you disagree. So you can actually write that this review is not this point is not very suitable for our thing, but there is a way of communicating those things, right? And Of course, I'm not saying that you have to accept all the review comments. Most of the times, or some comments do come which is out of the kind of context. They're asking you to do some further analysis and all this. So if you can, that's well and good. But if you cannot, you can cite a significant reason for that. Why you are not doing it, and in a most polite way. That I believe that this is what we have thing. Um, Most of the time I think people no you have the kind of a review response sheet, and the review response sheet, most of the time the reviewers only read that part of the paper which you have changed. So once you highlight the change, it's much easier for the reviewers to read those things. So please highlight those changes and also mention in the review context, the review sheet, that you have changed those part of it. And that it actually helps for the reviewer to get back to your kind of manuscript. And so and one last point is that, can you go to the next slide, please? So one last point is that as I think Professor Shaw and many others also mentioned, there is no quick fix or quick formula to you know to kind of write a paper or get published. The bottom line is, the more you read, the better you write. Because if you read more papers, you know that which sentences or which the way of writing is the most appropriate for presenting a particular logic. So sometimes you do believe that you have a very interesting finding, but you need to know the right way to communicate that particular story to the people. So the more you read, the and that actually enhances your quality of writing. Second important paper, and I do care on this thing when I review. Make sure that you have read the original papers. Do not refer everything on IPCC or IPBS or something like that. If you are talking about a delta that will be submerging with 3 meter per year or something like 3 millimeter per year, please go back to the original research, the geophysicists who have done those analysis, and then refer to that, because that gives you a much bigger impression that you have read the original paper, just not quoting some kind of common report or general report. And there are some domain papers. For example, if you are working on environmental psychology, so there are a couple of papers which are kind of mother papers. So make sure to read those papers not only one time but at least couple of times, so that because if you are referring to that papers, most of the and these papers normally have 10,000 plus citations. So those who are reviewing those papers, they have kind of digested those papers, so they will get back to each and every corner of that paper. So please be very whenever you refer this kind of papers, the original mother papers, so please be make sure that you have read that paper thoroughly, just not just the first paragraph and all this. I'll share an interesting story with during IPCC when I worked with Professor Shaw. So one fine day I asked that, please get back with all the kind of original papers whichever you have read. And one particular person told me, "Oh, sorry, I have not read the paper. I just wrote the abstracts." So and then I realized that many things go on the abstract, but that's not the right way to do. Please read the full paper, at least the good part of it. And sometimes the papers are, I of course I do not discard the paper on bad writing styles, but there is some way you can learn. For example, the reporting of results. You follow some styles of reporting, so there are actually established styles of reporting of statistical results or conclusions. So these are, if you read more papers, that would be kind of impinned in your mind, so you will not go wrong. You will write those same kind of thing. So that these are kind of major tips which I really feel is very important, and is not long time back when I was a PhD student, possibly a decade back, but I still remember those tough days when I got rejections, and then the good days when I got your paper has been accepted. So with this, I will conclude this thing, and I wish you all. Can I, next slide, please? I wish you all a happy writing. So please enjoy writing. And there's nothing like for a researcher or a kind of academician, there is no better feeling than getting published. And trust me on this. So Please enjoy writing, and thank you very much. I please for your questions here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rajarshi, for the 10 tips, and that is very important 10 tips that you have mentioned to us. There is already a question from the audience, and I myself also have question to you. So from the room, we have a question from Shreya. When you say that we need to improve our English, does improve English mean write in simpler way? Because grammatically the sentences do make sense, but we still get comments to improve English.
Yeah, so the English, by the meaning, good English is a simple English. So, and if I just a little bit elaborate those which personal, I feel the American English is a better way to communicate. They are quite simple as compared to the British English we use in India, because we are always inclined to a little bit of fancy and flowery English. But if you see the papers by American authors, they're very straightforward and very to the message, to the kind of context. So of course the grammar is very important. You cannot just write a wrong sentence. So that's not allowed. You cannot write a wrong sentence. But it's important that your like you can make very small sentence if you're not really confident about your English, rather than very long sentences. Sometimes one sentence for a native speaker, they can really manage a sentence that go for a para. But for us, those who are non-native speakers, we should write shorter sentence, like we can manage those sentences easily. So that's my point is, yeah. Mm. Okay, so I see another question. So there is a Elsevier journal finder. The question for sir, which websites you are talking about the check abstract to know. So there is an Elsevier. Just Google it, the Elsevier journal finders. So you will can just paste your abstract on that, and then the Elsevier, the database management system, will suggest you that which journal is the best fit according to your abstract. They give you the percentage, like 30% fit, 40% fit for this journal. So they will list at least 10 journals, I think more than 10 journals to under, of course, the Elsevier domain, where you can really find the suitable journal. Yeah. Any other questions?
Rahma, unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So it means we can open the Elsevier website, and then under the Elsevier website, there is some tools that we can put our abstract to find the best journal, or how does it technically work? Rajarsi?
Yeah, I cannot hear you actually. Can you repeat the question? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So you mentioned that we open the Elsevier journal, and then
Yeah.
under the Elsevier journal, we can
Ah,
have access. We can put some tools.
Elsevier journal finder. So I can show the link. Maybe.
Elsevier journal finder.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the link. So where you can actually type your abstract. So to like they will suggest you their journals which meets your like the best match for your thing here.
Okay. Thank you very much. And that's very important. And I think adding to that question, looking for a journal is actually something very quite difficult. And you have mentioned to also choose the reputation, publication time, but also, how would you suggest about the open access or not open access?
Yeah,
What
so
will
this
be
is
the
this is
difference?
one I just like to supplement what I have said. So sometimes and this is purely meant for PhD students who are present today. uh, you need to find a balance. That's the thing, because sometimes you need to really if you are particularly if you are closing the you are in, like approaching your tenure, so you need to publish first. So you need to choose a journal which is like very close to like quick publication and all this. But I always recommend that the PhD students paper, because you have put a lot of efforts. Like we professors, we do not put that much of effort. because we have multiple things to do. But for a PhD student, he or she has done 3 years or 4 years work continuously without any break and all, and very meticulously. At least one paper should be in a very top journal. That's kind of my expectation. Like out of your 2 or 3 papers, one paper should come in a top journal, because that's your 3 years work. So if you cannot publish your really like hard work research in a top journal, so in the later you will not have chance to work on a project for 3 years. That's as simple as it is. So you'll have to work in 2-3 months and all this, that, but the maximum you can get 2 months, for example. So I really expect, but again, they need to really find the balance. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Rajarsi.
Yeah,
And
thank you so much.
there is the link that you can, all of you, the attendees can try. Maybe Debelina, you can explain. So
Yes, all the attendees, you can answer the questions of the poll that the link I have shared, and you can use the code and you can answer those questions. There are 3 questions.
So there are 3 questions through menti.com based on Dr. Rajarsi presentation. So you can take a look for yourself. Here we can. Are there any questions? Or maybe everyone now is starting to try the Mentimeter. So we can open the Mentimeter together. Okay. Are there any other questions? Otherwise, Tisa, is the Mentimeter already start people to fill in the Mentimeter? Okay. So I think I have another question to Dr. Ajati about
Yeah, please
your
go ahead.
about the tips number 4. So the
Yeah.
tips number 4 is using statistics to increase your chance of acceptance,
Hmm.
especially for social science.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think like when we are doing from the hard science, we have a lot of quantitative data,
Yes.
like the
Yes.
numbers. But
Hmm.
when we are doing for social science or maybe science communication or some other, it's more qualitative. So, so you suggest that we need to combine qualitative and quantitative, or how to do it for social science publication?
Yes, I believe that, uh, I'm not saying that that every research paper has to come with statistics thing, but wherever you have an opportunity to use statistics, do use that. For example, as I give that many papers, they come with a comparison between groups, like male, female, haves and have nots, and poor and rich, and all this kind of comparison are there in most of the social science papers. And here, if you just write a mean of your research score without giving a statistics, so the ways of interpreting that, as a reviewer, I don't really find that argument very proper without a statistical kind of connotation attached to that. So yeah, you have done some kind of testing based on your understanding or results, and then you have concluded that based on this test, these two groups are different or same, something like that. So I do believe that that increases more credibility to your results, and therefore the chances of acceptance of your paper, that increases. I'm not saying that without that it will not be accepted, but it increases somewhat. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Rajarsi. And I think I want to share about the Metimeter. Oh, I cannot share my screen. Okay, it's okay. Yeah, I cannot share my screen, but thank you for the participant who has shared who has filled in the Mentimeter. So the first question is, what will be the ideal length of a research paper? 6,000, 8,000, 1,000, or 10,000. So most of them are answering 6,000. Is it the correct answer?
It is the correct answer. Yeah,
Correct
3,000,
answer.
6,000. Yes.
So 6,000 is the ideal length of a research paper.
It can
Now
go up to 8,000, but 6,000 you should try to write within 6,000 so that you have about 1,000 as a buffer. But don't really. But most journals give 8,000 as a limit but it's always better to write within 6,000. Yeah. Optimum length.
wow. Thank you. So the second question, among the following software, which one is not citation software? First, Mendeley, second, EndNote, third, Zotero, third, Grapher. So the most of the attendees answer Grapher. Grapher
Yeah,
is not
that's correct. Yeah,
citation
that's
software.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, so you are right. So the citation software that you can use are Mendeley, EndNote, and Zotero.
Yeah.
Then the last
Do
question.
use any of it? Yes, that will work.
I see. Thank you.
Mm.
Then the last question is, which journal are known as Q1 journal? The top 25 of the subject journal, the top 50% of subject journal, the bottom 25 SCI index journal, none of the above. So most of them are answering the top 25% of the subject journal.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. Mm.
So
Thank you
you are
so much.
following
Thanks.
well. Thank you. And actually, we have our last question for Dr. Rajarsi.
Yeah. Mm.
Can you please describe the essential points to keep in mind for writing a review paper? So that will be the last question.
Which one? Okay, so for review paper, it's a little bit tricky. Tricky means so review. There are many kind of reviews. You have systematic reviews, you have thematic reviews, and all this. For review paper, the 2-3 important first point is that I will read your review paper to escape reading hundreds of papers. You can get my point. Like, I will only read your review paper if that can summarize the messages of 100 papers which I don't want to read. So for that, you need to synthesize in a way so that I don't need to really read the rest of the papers. That's one kind of objective. So for that, you need to really do a very good and very kind of structured way of reviewing. That's one point. Second point is the review paper language. So uh, don't just do a review, try to find out something out of that review. For example, you have a research question, frame a research question that how does the global change is perceived by agriculture, the farmers. And this is a kind of topic which has multiple research have been done on this thing. Now you try to conclude in a way that you have really find some symmetry across the paper or some dissymmetry across the papers. So your review paper, despite it is a kind of a secondary, based on the secondary data, a secondary kind of analysis, it should be communicating one message. And review paper, you can little bit relax with the length of the paper. You can go up to 8,000 or even beyond that if it really worth it. But for me, three important point is that it should give a reader feeling of not reading 100 papers but to read your paper. Second, it's like it has a very clear synthetic message coming out of your paper. For example, you synthesize something based on a large volume of literature and with this kind of screening process. And third, it should be lucid and try very easily readable and complete. I think these 3 points are very, very important to write a review paper. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think that is the last question that for your session. And thank you very much again, Dr. Rajasi, for the 10 tips not to get our paper rejected, which is very important. Again,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Dr. Rajarshi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rahma Hanifa. Now I would request our next speaker, Dr. Gulshan Ara Parveen from Ritsumeikan University, Japan, to give her presentation.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon from Japan. Nice to meet you all and happy to have a great discussion part of that. So here, me too, I cannot share. I tried many times. I'm trying after joining and before joining, but I failed to share my screen. So would you please, anyone volunteer me to share my screen? My PowerPoint I have sent already in to you.
Yes, sure, ma'am. I'll share that.
Please. So already we have heard some very good points and important points from Professor Rajiv Shaw. And he mentioned that we are still learning, and he is a big writer, and he has so many publications still. He mentioned that he is also learning, and he is also still now scared of rejection. So that's why you can understand that how important is it that we all need to learn about writing. And from the discussion of Dr. Rajoshi Dasgupta, you have understood that what should be, what should not be, what to do, what not to do. So you have got some idea. And whatever at the last point he mentioned that you must need more reading, and then writing, you can gradually improve. So today, whatever I will discuss, that will be already somehow little bit, not little bit, many points are focused by Dr. Rajoshi, and I will just try to give you a sense of flow of the paper and the structure of the paper. And let's we start. Next, please. So we need help, and here I am trying to help you and also having help from you. Next. And next, here, this is the structure of my, can you, here maybe other three part I have. So first part is I will try to introduce what is critical paper writing. Then I will try to give you the idea about where and how we can start our journey of writing. And then at the third part, I will try to give you the how we can make a good flow of our writing from starting to end. So next, please. Next, yeah. And what is critical writing? So critical writing, or you can say academic writing, all academic writing actually it is professional writing, and that we can call it critical writing. It's not writing a whatever I feel today in the morning, feelings of my today's morning, I'm writing openly in my diary. It's not like that. It is critical writing, that it should have some logical flow and logical writing and some argument. So critical writing actually we can find different scholar and practitioners, different academicians, they are writing in different sector of the world, especially in the journal paper, and something that are going to add new knowledge. So it's not the general writing, is there should have something new knowledge creation approach. And another thing is that it should indicate some probable solution, and also it should have all the argument, analysis, information sharing from the different multiple sources, even from your own field survey source, and that would be supported by different already published sources. And then it should be something that you will validate your hypothesis. And what is hypothesis, what is your findings, result, whatever that you need to validate with some logical argument, some evidence, and all the things that are inside the writing. Then we can mention it, or we can define it. It is a critical paper or critical academic writing. So in academic writing, we should have all these things already. Already Dr. Rajoshi have mentioned that he has mentioned that what we should be. So critical paper should have some new knowledge, some probable solutions, some logical arguments, some validation. So all these will make a critical paper that we are going to do, you all are going to do. So next, please. So here I am trying to show you that what are main two types of writing we generally we do. One is thesis. This is, now I am not writing any thesis because I have passed that that way, and mainly the research paper or journal paper we are doing. But maybe in this audience, many of you are in this journey. So can you click once again, because there are some arrow and yeah. So many of you are on the way of writing thesis. Some are trying to write some journal paper. So these are the main structure of a thesis and journal paper, and all will make a academic writing, and that academic writing should have some consistency from the starting, like from the point 1 to point 8. Here also from point in the paper point 1 to point 8. In some paper maybe there are less point, maybe within 7 or maybe 9, may have some different other points, but these are the main basic points in thesis and in journal paper, starting from the introduction or executive summary. Some thesis you need to put some executive summary, introduction, literature review, and study area, result and discussion, conclusion, reference, and appendices. I will try to focus some one by one, and these are the paper structure. Mainly is starting from not executive summary, but abstract is kind of, actually we can call it executive summary. And introduction, some paper, especially in the social science paper, or even very scientific paper, they prefer, some of the editor are very keen to theoretical background. They want to know that whether the author have good background study about the present concept and theories of the topic he or she is focusing. So after introduction, some journal prefer very good theoretical background or literature review, conceptualization. That Dr. Gupta or Dr. Rajoshi mentioned that a flow diagram, that is a very good thing, that diagram conceptual framework that gives some good indication to the reviewer or to the editor that you have a very good concept in your mind before focusing the problem, before addressing the problem. So that conceptualization sometimes very good things, and that definitely need very intensive literature review. So for a good paper, or if you want to make it published, then I prefer that should have a very good background study and conceptualization. Then there are study area, you wherever, mainly those who we are here in the field of disaster related study, we do some theoretical writing, some methodological paper writing, but we have a very good focus or very huge focus to the practical ground or field oriented research. So that definitely needs some introduction about the study area, and what should be in that area, and I will focus in the next slide. And methodology, result and discussion, conclusion, I will focus in my different slide. Next please. So here there are different types of paper that I mentioned, that we have research thesis and also journal paper. So these three types are mainly the journal paper related. What kind of research paper or journal paper we usually write, or we can find from Google search or in different search engine, using different search engine, we can find these three types of paper mainly. One is literature review based paper, which we call review paper. So review paper, and there are methodology based paper, and some are empirical study paper. So review paper, are mainly the paper which is related to the existing or previous very key concerning issues that are emerging in the society or in our global situation, different emerging situation like climate change, sustainable development goal, vulnerability, resilience. These different words we are often hearing or reading in different parts. And so if someone wants to do some review based paper, maybe some concerning issue, he or she pick, and then try to have more reading with many journal papers, academic document or international documents. So they try to mainly the review paper focus on different scholars published paper. And the thing Dr. Rajushi mentioned, that review doesn't mean that you will just review this author told this author told this, and it's not like that. The review paper is that you will try to find some of their findings, some of their concerning issues. You will try to do some analysis, systematic analysis. What is the missing? What is the gap in their focus, or what should be here? So some analytical things should be also there. So the paper which is doing like that, that is mainly theoretical paper. And at the end of the review based paper, you should have your own judgment, or maybe you should have some part where you are criticizing or you are critically analyzing all the argument that is already existed. So here I have given one paper one, P paper one. I have sent some supporting materials or reference materials to the organizer, and hope they will share with you all. Here P means all the paper where P is starting, that is I somehow I am author of that, so I mentioned the P is Parvin paper 1, 2, and 3. Here I have mentioned. I have some other papers also to give you some ideas. And here methodology based paper, that is related to some paper that actually focusing to have some new methodological approach, that are trying to develop and showing you some new methodology. And at the same time, they can validate the methodology by doing some empirical study too, or some paper, only the methodology is the paper. So here, paper number 3, where actually I should mention that here, the author tried to, this is not actually, I did maybe mistake, that this is not my paper. This is authored by Professor Shaw and Umma Habiba. They wrote a very good paper which was related to drought in the northern part of Bangladesh. And there they tried to develop some methodology to do drought resilience analysis, SIP model, socioeconomic, institutional, physical or related issues. They have tried to identify, and based on those 3 dimensions, they tried to identified the resilience of drought resilience of northern part of Bangladesh. So that paper focused on more methodology and also the empirical study of the northern part of Bangladesh. So that another kind of paper. So you can decide that where you are and which kind of paper you are going to write. And based on that, you need to make your planning. And then empirical study related. So we are mainly often try to do this type of research in our disaster field, because all around us we have so many problems in different parts of the world, in India, Bangladesh, in South Asia, and different countries are facing different problem, disaster related problem. And we try to, many of us, we try to focus some study area and try to find some key problem of the area. And then we do study, we do field data collection, and then we analyze our data and prepare some interpretation tool, or prepare some table, diagram, figure, or statistical analysis, present our findings, and then we try to give some implication mechanism or some recommendation based on our findings. So that is another common approach of writing. And then there are many papers. You can find many papers related to the empirical study based paper. So here the paper number 2 I have shared, And after this lecture, if you have chance, I advise you, I recommend you to go through all these papers. Then you can have better understanding. Here in this paper, I try to focus on the, maybe we can go next slide, and then I can discuss more, please. Here, yes, in this I have already actually discussed the theoretical paper and methodological also, and here you can find some more references where you can go and can have better understanding what is methodological paper. Just recently I found this paper number 3 is very interesting one. Here they tried to have some methodological development to find some resilience of coastal cities, and there are many index in resilience measurement index, but they have developed another good indexing, and the city of Indonesian city Banda Aceh, they try to explore the resilience level of the city by the implication of the methodology. So you can go through this one, and I have mentioned about the another paper with Professor Shaw and Habib Hassan. So that also another interesting one. And now the empirical study paper that I am trying to discuss about you, that is paper number 2. It is just recently published in this year, few months before. That is one of the interesting paper. I have a quick publication in International Journal of Disaster Risk Reduction. So I found that the paper was accepted. This is one of my paper which is accepted very quickly. So the thing is, here I tried to focus on the disaster induced damage in the primary school and the knowledge gain. Usually we focus mostly on the damage and impact of the disaster, but what is the positive side of the disaster, the gain from the disaster, that is not so much addressed in the South Asian part. So we were trying to focus that after Cyclone Ida, what are the knowledge they have gained. So that different statistical analysis we have used here, and some description. So that was one of my good paper or in empirical study related. So you can go through that and have some good idea, I feel. And whatever Dr. Rajoshi was informing you, that during paper writing, statistical analysis is one of the good things, though there may have many qualitative paper, have very good quality, but somehow that he mentioned that somehow the reviewers, we are biased to some extent to the statistical evidence. So from my personal experience, actually, I found that in 2017, 18, even 19, I was very upset that none of my paper was having acceptance, and I was frustrated that why it's going on. I submitted many papers, but it is not having good response. So after that, I found that in 2020, after 2020 to 22, I have published almost 12 papers. So that was very lucky I am, and I found that statistical analysis is a matter. I don't know that whether it is proved or not, but from my personal experience, that if you can have very good statistical analysis, or even not very sophisticated one, if you have to some extent statistical analysis to validate your findings, validate your observation, then there will have good chance of acceptance. Definitely there are some other criteria also you need to fulfill, but one of the thing is statistical analysis, and I found that is applicable for me, and I found many paper accepted very quickly. So next slide, please. Next slide. Next. So here I am trying to focus, next one you can go. I'm trying to focus see how, from where we should start, how should we start. So first thing, those who are very new in this journey of writing. So the thing is, those who are doing thesis, or those who are going to have some idea about the thesis topic, or some some very, very interesting topic for journal paper. So they should start with the findings of the topic. So you need to try to find the very important topic and which is very demanding topic for this peasant bird. You cannot find any very, very general topic that will have less demand definitely. So try to find some very, very I don't mean sophisticated, find to that need oriented and the topic that is very key concern of this present world. So maybe climate change is a key concerning issue, but climate change as a general topic you cannot. You need to narrow down. So the topic maybe you have the broader topic is climate change you are going to address or disaster risk reduction you are going to address. But from then you need to gradually narrow down that disaster risk reduction from where. Maybe you need to find the ICT use in disaster risk reduction, or you need to find some solution. You need to try to find some smart city in disaster risk reduction, how smart cities can grow and how it is suitable for disaster risk reduction, or maybe smart city have some more impact on disaster risk. So there are may have different topics. So you need to find some topic which is very demanding and you need to narrow down that. So starting is a big thing. So if you have a good starting, then you can gradually go to a good ending. So that's already the different proverb in our different language we have. The good starting should have a good impact. So that's the thing. So you need to observe around you. You need to find the best problem and then start working. And then you can draft the problem of this the thing you are going to do, and then based on the thing you should do huge literature review. That reading is must. You need to do study. Without study, actually we even Professor Shaw still now mentioned that he also do reading. So a person like him also doing huge reading, and without reading actually we cannot develop any good paper, or we cannot do any good studying. So literature review we must need, and at the same time we are just doing review reading. That's not the thing. You must develop some mechanism and take note that you can do some numbering of the paper, that and in that paper you can put some note and that which are the key point of the paper, because after reading maybe 10 papers we will forget the basic things of the paper number 1. So that's very natural for human being. So that's why we must need to have some good note during literature review. Then after having some conceptual development, that this 3.1 to 3 is actually the main conceptual development part. You have made some foundation of your journey. So after that you can start some outlining. You can have some that okay, I am going to write on this topic and then my outline will be like this. Even if you narrow down a topic, you cannot cover all the issues. Is not possible. So you can focus that okay, I will do some I will write some paper related to smart city and disaster risk reduction. Then I cannot cover all things. I will go for the energy sector of the smart city, or I'll go for the waste disposal system of a smart city. Then I will focus. So you need to outline that what you are going to address and how you are going to address. Then start your writing paper or thesis. Then you need to do that writing complete and formatting, list out the references. Then you need to revise proofreading. That another very important point. That is we cannot do half cooked. That Dr. Rajoshi mentioned. You should not do it half cooked. So that's I also experienced once. I had a very good paper and very good data source, that field level data that I studied in Malaysia, and actually that was very good paper. I submitted to MIT, and I thought that as I submitted it MIT, and as it was it was done in very good research based, so it will be published. So I thought like that and I submitted to a journal. Then I discovered from the editor that the paper was actually a kind of a report, a big report, because I did as a research report in during staying in MIT. So I thought that it will be published soon, but it was fully my mistake and misunderstanding. So I got maybe around more than 20 email from the editor, because the editor, I found somehow that editor likes the topic and he wants to publish, but he cannot publish it in that form. It was in different form, its shape was different. It's too much of writing, too much of things. So gradually he was requesting me this, that. He cannot say that it is rejected, but he cannot accept also. So he was continuously writing me email, and I was doing, again submitting, again writing. Like this way, it took long time to be published, because it was very many duplication. It has too much information. So that's the thing. We must need to revise, and we need to make it suitable for the journal where we are going to submit. We need to make it suitable in its form. If it is thesis, it will be one shape. If it is paper, it will have another shape. So that's another thing, that you should have some good proofreading and revision, and then you should go for submission. So this is the whole journey actually. And from this whole journey, you need to follow many grammar, many rules and regulation. So that's maybe I'm not sure that I'm talking too fast or okay. So next slide, please. Then topic selection already I think I have mentioned that how we can do topic selection. We can go next slide maybe. And literature review, that's another important point that I mentioned, that we need some conceptual development, and for that we must need some literature review. Whatever we are trying to find, our result we are trying to prove, we are submitting our research findings, but we need to validate that with some other supporting findings from the other literature, and what is existing in the world, in the academic world, what is existed in the published form. So the published form actually have different form. Like here you can see that gray literature. What is gray literature? All literature, we are not saying that it is gray literature. Gray literature is that which is not peer reviewed. We around us, in whenever we go to the Google, this whole world is knowledge world is open to us. We can find many blog, we can find different website. Some Mitsubishi companies is trying to publish some document that about that product. Some maybe some other international companies are submitting their report in website. Some bloggers are writing about climate change. Some different media are publishing the related to disaster risk. So there are huge knowledge around us. So we can search many things, we can have knowledge from different sources, but we need to decide which is reliable one, which is good one. So here gray literature, actually the literature that is not peer reviewed. Peer reviewed means that is not reviewed by very good scholars who is expert on that field. No one has reviewed that. So it is whatever the company have found, whatever the company or personal blogger have judged, he or she or the company has written and published. So it is not peer reviewed one. So if that kind of report or annual publication, that we call it gray literature. So in the academic writing or critical paper writing, or we usually don't suggest or welcome this gray literature. You should use often. You can use, it's not that prohibited fully, you cannot use. You can use only, you have no other option. That in case of especially in South Asian countries, we don't have much data, we didn't have very good information in many topics. So sometimes if we want, even we cannot rely on the reviewed journal papers. So there are maybe no author have yet addressed the issues. So that's why we sometimes need to depend on the gray literature. So that you can do, but you should have more intention to find the evidence or find the supporting literature from the reviewed journal paper or some very good journal paper which is reviewed. So literature review, next please. And here the literature review, some kind of search engine. And I think the audience who are maybe many of you are very young generation, very talented. So you know more about the IT field. So if you try to find some good sources, you can find it easily. So you are smart enough. So if you can find that this search engine, you know, that different institution, that IIT, that different universities of India or Bangladesh, even USA, UK, they have some university library, e-journal, they have the e-library. You can go there, but you should have some ID password. If you are belong to any institution, maybe you can have access from the e-journal of their institution and Google Scholar and Science Direct, and there are many search engines. So you can link there, you can go there and can have many very interesting and relevant papers that you are working for. Next, please. And next, you can go another next. Sorry, here. You can find, before that, please go the previous one. Here. From the Science Direct, this website, you can put all the keyword that you are looking for, like here drought and vulnerability. Then you can click journal, book, or all the sources you are trying to find. And then the field also, you can click that all the field you want, the field related to agriculture related drought, or you want to focus on the biodiversity related, chemistry related, art and humanities related. Even the field is this too, but different area, different scholars from different area can have studies. So you can click here which one you are trying to focus, then from which year you want to know. Maybe very old publication is not so important, but sometimes those are also important if you want to analyze some trend analysis, or if you want to see how drought situation in a country is changing. So maybe you can go through different very old paper. And if your concern is not, are not trying to analyze some trend analysis, or you are just trying to focus on the recent drought situation, then maybe very old paper you don't need. Because during our paper writing, sometimes many reviewer give some comment that your citation are very old. So they don't prefer that you are writing in 2022, but you are citing 1992. You are citing 1982's paper. So that's are not relevant. The context of the society, context of the world has changed. So you should be updated. So that's why that depend on your goal of the study, your main focus of the study. Then based on that, you can select the year. And next, please. And if you put all these, and then you can have many list of the paper. Here you can see the different list. But here you can see some paper are open access, some are, these are not open access. These are some closed access paper. So here some are in the press even, some not yet published. So from here, some paper you can download easily. Some you need some your institutional ID password. If your institution library has the access to the paper, then you can have, or sometimes even you can write to the author directly. So it's very good that if whenever we write to the author, if the email address is available on the top of the paper, then you can write email and you can mention that for you this work you need this paper. So generally all of the authors share the paper personally, because due to the copyright rule they cannot keep it open access. So but personally, if we show our interest, generally you can have the paper. So in this way you can collect many literature and you can go through. Next, please. And here another important point, that is paraphrasing. What is paraphrasing? So that's actually very important. Whenever we write our paper, we must need to be aware of this, that we cannot, in the academic world, we cannot just copy and paste. Is prohibited. It's plagiarism. That is called that. If your paper, we must need intensive literature review, we must need to prove our findings with the evidence, we must need to do conceptualization, but we cannot direct copy and paste, because the thing is written by someone else. I cannot copy him, or I cannot copy his writing or high writing. So here's some example that maybe the same thing you want to tell, you want to support him or her, but you need to write in a different way. Like here, the original text, it is example from one of my paper, that is, even after a severe disaster, very few people receive support from microfinance institution. Here in my paper, I have wrote like this way, that after a severe disaster, very few people receive support from microfinance. So if any other author or any other writer goes to write the same things, goes to refer me, goes to cite my paper, then they must need to change it, need to write in a different way. They cannot just copy my style. So here the same thing, same information, you can understand that in a paraphrasing way, microfinance institutor provides support to very few people to build their house even after a severe disaster. So we just, the indirect way or in the changing way, you need to write it. So you must need to do paraphrasing of any literature that you are going through. You cannot just copy the main author's text and put it in your own. So that's it. I have shared the handout 7. There are many good ways and approaches of paraphrasing, that the style, and you need to learn the style, that how you can do it. So maybe after this lecture, you can carefully go through all this handout, and then you can learn more. Next, please. And next one, academic paper writing, what you should avoid. That already Dr. Rajoshi has mentioned, that what we should avoid, what we should do, what we should not do. So avoid things, the one of the thing, the style, writing style, that we cannot use the present person, first person. We cannot use the first person way, that I believe, we believe, or we understand, we found. Because here in academic world, in the scholars academic writing world, critical paper writing world, I am nobody actually. Whoever I nobody will believe me that I believe it, I understood it, I found it. So I am nothing. I need to prove something in a supporting way with some data, some evidence, and I can use that. Like here you can see that instead of using first person, you can use third person, like the author mentioned, but it is found by the author, not me, not I. You cannot use this kind of thing. So you must need to avoid the first person style in your writing. And another very informal way these days, due to having messenger, having WhatsApp, and different chat, emo, and whatever it is in the world, there are many different options to chat with the friends and colleagues. So we often are now having the style very informal, local expression type. And somehow in I found that in young generation, it is becoming very common that they are trying to use very local style or very casual style, informal style, even in their professional writing. So that is actually not welcoming in the professional world. That you see that here you cannot use hi guys, you cannot write like this, you cannot write don't know. This type of style actually very informal, and during messenger or WhatsApp we usually sometimes write this kind of things with our friends. So that's becoming some kind of habit. So we need to be very careful that during academic writing, we cannot use this informal way. So please be careful. Next, please. So next one. Here, next. Now I'm trying to focus you the structure of a journal paper or structure of a academic writing paper. Here you can see from the triangulation, this is triangle, and from the, can you click again this right side, some text will come. Click on the corner of the triangle, then detail cannot. Have you opened it from my PowerPoint or PDF?
No, ma'am, I've opened the PowerPoint.
Yeah, then it should come. Here, this each triangle have some explanation this side, left side. Cannot? There are
It's not
small,
coming.
in the right corner, there is a small box. If you click there, it should come some.
I cannot see any box.
Okay, then I'm explaining. Here you can see the, you already I have discussed the, in a paper, you should have some introduction, background. Introduction and background actually the same almost. You can choose any of that. Some paper it shows that introduction, some shows the background of the studies, some of the paper can show the statement of the problem. So this is actually initial stage of your paper, there where you are trying to give all detailed background, that what is the main issues you are going to focus, why you are going to focus it, what is the present situation of the issues, why it is important, and how you are going to address, how maybe very detail you will discuss in the methodology, but still you should give some indication that I will focus on these issues, and as these issues are these is very important, very critical in this local context. So in this way I am trying to address these issues, and hopefully we'll find some good way. So you need to give some background information, and it sometimes it starting from the global scale to your local scale, from the global perspective the local situation, and then how you will address, you need to focus on this background, and also why you are going to focus, the main objective, main goal of your research or of your paper, you need to mention in this introduction or background part. Then, and this is actually the past situation, that what is going on, or what is the condition. Then you will come to the methodological approach, that how you will try to find the problem, or how you will try to address the problem, and what you are what issues you will address, and how you will address your target area, your target group, or your information data source, your objectives, your way of analysis, all you need to mention here. Like in some study we try to focus, like I am giving you example in the one of my paper, like before I mentioned that we try to focus on the impact of cyclone Aila and knowledge gain of the student, primary school student, how what kind of knowledge they have gained. So there our methodology may be the target group are the student, and the school are the main area or sector of our study, and then how we have collected data, what was our indicator of assessment, knowledge gain assessment. Maybe we cannot say that whether they have got knowledge or not. Maybe there are some parameter or indicator to assess the knowledge gain. So that we need to, or you need to address here, mention in the methodology part, and you need to mention that how you have analyzed that whether they have gained knowledge or not. Maybe before and after, you can, that before whatever the knowledge they had, after they have. But the thing is, we have studied after the cyclone Aila. We have no study before. So maybe we have no before data. So it is perception based. Maybe before or after, they are giving their some perception based answer, that whether they have get more knowledge or not. Then maybe we have some scoring system, and then before or after we have compared with some statistical test, maybe some t-test, and then we can deduct sometimes maybe the before and after score, then what is the gain of the knowledge. and the knowledge is assessed maybe depending on the how many students know the cause of the disaster cyclone, how many know the immediate response, how many know the warning number, what warning number inform what. So this kind of different indicator or approach of your analysis, all you need to mention in the methodology part. And
Dr.
then,
Parveen, sorry
yes.
for interrupting, but we are running behind our schedule. So
How many minutes I can continue? Can you please?
you can wrap it up in 5 minutes.
Oh, only 5 minutes. Okay, then next slide. Okay, then maybe we can go next. Just very briefly, I can. And abstract, what should be in the abstract? Yes, here you can you please put some again? No. Before I have some highlighting in the abstract. Yeah, in this abstract, actually, this is one of the important things that in the abstract is the basic executive summary of a paper. So here, though it is very short, most of the journal prefer it is within 150 word or 200 word, not 300, 500, 600 word you cannot write. But within this short writing, you need to complete all this. You need to mention about your problem or background. You need to mention that what is the existing condition of the problem, what is the main methodology, what is the result you have got here in your finding, and then what is the implication of your findings. Then all these basic things you need to have within your abstract. Some journal paper or some journal have some structured format that you have some key point, you need to fill up that. But most of have not like that, but you need to complete all the information within your abstract. Next, please. Next, yeah. And next again. I'm trying to just next one, please. What is the structure of a thesis and background? In the background, I have already discussed, so we can go next. What should be in the background? And characteristics of the introduction, that also I have discussed, that what should be, you should mention about the problem, you need to mention about the present situation, and little bit brief methodology and outcome of the paper you need to mention in the background. Next, please. Or introduction. And objective, in the objective section, maybe for the thesis it is very good way you can elaborate your objective, and you can mention how it is doable objective, and clearly you can mention. But in the paper you need to mention it a very brief way and but clearly. Next, please. And here are some ways of putting your methodology or research hypothesis in this format, especially in the thesis. You can follow this, that this is, we sometimes call it coordination schema, that it will coordinate you doing your research or writing your thesis, that you have this objective and you have the hypothesis that you are trying to find the role of microfinance institution in disaster risk reduction. Then your hypothesis that microfinance institution are doing good for the poor for their disaster risk reduction. Then to prove this hypothesis or to understand this, these are your research question. Next, please. So in this way you can format your thesis also, then it will guide you better way. And after having your research question, you can, for each research question, you can develop some parameter. Parameter is a little bit wider than the indicator, and you can find the source from where you can find this kind of data, and you can have some more small indicator based on this, and then the data source, then the tools, how can you find the data and how can analyze all the things you can make in a coordination schema, and that will guide you during writing. Next, please. And this is the introduction chapter. You should try to focus the limitation and scope. And next, maybe we can complete it. And data related things, you need to make the data very visible, attractive, valid, understandable, and your interpretation should be very clearly explained, not the this and that happened, this and that happened. You need to have some argument here also, and logically you need to analytical way you need to present it. Next, please. And what should be data included? Next one. This is the different presentation style, data presentation, some linear diagram, histogram, spider diagram, all these things you can find more. Next, please. Here just some example of different paper I am using. This is one way of putting the data, 10 different zone related data, how different perspectives, social, economic, natural, they are different in different zone. Next, please. This is another way that I have studied in Malaysia, that there are 10 different villages in Tamil Nadu municipal area and their disaster resilience. What is their score in different resilience? Spider diagram type. Next, please. And here in the map, I tried to show the resilience level of different part of Dhaka city. There are 10 different zone, and the using the grading shade of the color, I tried to which are highly resilient or low resilience, that I tried to focus the different zone conditions. So, and here some statistical analysis with the table, that here I have tried to focus that if the membership year of the microfinance institution are more, then their disaster risk reduction is higher, or their disaster risks are low. So the membership years are increasing, their risks are getting low. So that's another way of statistical analysis plus data presentation. Next. So this is some correlation related statistical issues. Next, please. And here some result and discussion, please. Next. We can go quickly the conclusion part. Yeah, last. So last on conclusion part, I just will talk 2 minutes. Here the conclusion. In the conclusion will be another thing, that here in conclusion you need to focus many things, like you need to inform the basic findings of your study, but it should be very brief and concise. You need to mention about your findings here, but you cannot duplicate many things again and again. You cannot say probably, perhaps, maybe, because already you have done, you have proved it with your data. So this term cannot be used in conclusion. And every logical thing, everything will be logical and valid, and you should give your concrete findings, concrete decision here, and then you should give some indication of future research, that what you couldn't do or what should be done more, that you should indicate in the conclusion. So that's all from my side. So if you have more thing to know, you can communicate with me personally. So you all have done great job, and I wish your good paper in future.
Thank you very much, Dr. Parveen, for your presentation. We are running short in time, so we'll go to our next speaker, Dr. Endra Gunawan. I would request Dr. Gunawan to give his presentation.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. Have you received my slide? I already sent it to you, so you just, or perhaps I can share.
Sir, can you please try sharing it?
Okay. How about now? Can you see my slide?
Yes, sir, we can see your slides.
Okay, I'll start for the next 25 minutes. I hope why suddenly jump? I hope I didn't pass my intended time. Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Endra. I'm from Bandung Institute of Technology in ITB, and I will share to you a strategy in writing or building writing habit. And basically, I've done writing 8 practical steps to write scientific paper in scientific journal as a first author, but it's in Indonesia, so perhaps the audience from Indonesia can find it through online store or in store in any place in any city in Indonesia. And I also act as a chief editor in Journal of Engineering and Technological Sciences, and also editor in Open Physics. And perhaps this is my timeline for this kind of business. So I start co-authoring in 10 years ago, probably in 2012. And my first paper as first author and corresponding author only start in 2014, so about 8 years ago. So I guess that compared to other presenter, perhaps I'm the most and least experienced here. But anyway, if you feel that my presentation is useful for you, then you can take it. Otherwise, you just scrap it. And during this time, from 2014 up to September 2022, I have write as first and corresponding author for 16 journal in QSAT, Q1, and others. And basically, writing is not a single formula. So it's like if you go from one city to another city, you can go through west, for example. In here, this is Bandung in Indonesia, and this is in Cirebon, different cities. So if you go from one place, you can go to west and then go to east. But another possibility is also going straight to north and then going to the east. But a third possibility is directly to the east. So it's like writing is similar to this assumption that basically you cannot just take one knowledge and apply it to the whole sequence. And so I'm going to share to you about the self-preparation issue. First is motivation. So basically every writer should know what is their motivation in writing. If you are a, say, doctoral student, then your motivation probably for you to have to graduate the school. But then when you finish the school, you finish your graduate level and you obtain your PhD, for example, then if you only to that moment you think your writing is enough, then you will not start in writing again. But it's kind of different if you think that your knowledge during your, let's say, PhD or your young scientist, and your knowledge during those time useful for the, let's say, humanity or people in general to get the idea, to know what is your knowledge is, and then you can start writing probably more easily. And second thing is that in most cases, writing is not just a single knowledge or single interpretation of a single authorship. But of course, you can do that. But in terms of achieving those level, it's better, or it's my suggestion is that for you to find a collaborator, because one collaborator may have make our understanding more better, let's say better than current understanding. And another possibility is that your collaborator may have some, let's say, either funding or probably more knowledge than yours. So it will make the draft that you're going to send, it's more easily to get published. And the third is never feel lonely, because it's like if you think that you're alone in writing a paper, you should think opposite, that the paper itself, there are a lot of scientists in this world that you can contact, that you can try to ask and how to collaborate. Basically, it's kind of collaboration between yourself and a different professor or different author from different country, for example. And the fourth, probably this already mentioned by many presenter before, that you should read many references, because you cannot start in writing without having knowledge of your expertise. So if you want to write a good paper, then you have to read many paper. That's also been said by the previous speaker. And the fifth is that honesty. So you have to be honest with yourself, with your data. That's quite very important, because basically in submitting paper, you can change the data, because if you collecting the data by yourself, then you can change it throughout the process. But that's not an honest process for scientific paper. So you have to be honest with yourself, you have to be honest with the data, and in some point in the future, your understanding can be turn back. I mean, it can be the opposite thing, but at least in the your current understanding, current knowledge, you have to be honest with the data. The simple explanation is probably during 1990s, for example, scientists agree that Pluto is one of our planet, one of number 9 planet. But now in year 2000 or after 2000, then they change it. So that kind of understanding is important for the progress of the science itself. And 6 is funding. Like it or not, you need funding either for the simplest way is also mentioned by previous presenter that some journal right now they are open access journal. So if you want to submit to open access, then you have to pay. But the reader can easily take or can easily read your paper, your published paper, without submission fee. And that's quite important because in most country, for example in Indonesia, we don't have many institutions in Indonesia did not submit did not have submission journal. So if your paper is published in an open access journal, then it will be easier for reader to read and then to cite your paper. And that's one of the important thing in funding. And of course, another important is that if you're collecting data, if you conduct research yourself, you need funding. So basically funding is very, very important. And the 7 is also been mentioned by the previous presenter, that do not surrender on rejection. So if you have experienced rejection, then the importance of the comments from the review can be useful for you for submitting or polishing your paper, your draft. And then if you manage to make it modify the draft, then you can resubmit it to another journal. So that's quite important. And okay, so I'm going to add some additional note, and the first is that consistency. So if you write a draft, use a consistent language. Either it's the language British or American, just follow the journal manual, and then also the references. How is the reference? How is the style? You have to be consistent in your draft. So that's one way to show the editor, at least in the first step, that you manage to deliver or to send to the journal the first draft that is, let's say, perfect. And the second thing is to avoid plagiarism. So if you take figure, it's better to modify the figure, and it's not just take directly from those figure and put it in your paper. That will be plagiarism thing. So it's better to modify the figure, or the best way is to make a drawing by yourself, for example. And also in text, not right now we have many software to check on the plagiarism on the text. And in my experience, most of the threshold plagiarism is 20%. Above 20%, then most likely your paper will be rejected without I mean, if you take a sentence from different published different paper and put it directly into your draft, then it will be plagiarized. And if the cumulative number is, let's say, 20%, then in most of journal, like our journal, it's just being rejected directly. And the third thing is to show something unique. So probably this also been highlighted by previous speaker, that if in terms of writing a scientific paper, you don't write a report, but you need to show something unique from your finding. Okay, if you find something, then what is the implication? And then all those things you have to combine. All those things you have to put it in a way that it's become interesting for reader. And fourth is at least citing the latest publication to show the readers that you understand the topic. It comes back to the first previous understanding the topic itself. So if you basically now it's easier to find the latest publication. You can use Google Scholar, for example. But using or citing the latest publication is at least show the readers that you understand the global topics of yourself. So I'm not talking about my in here. I'm not talking about my scope of work because I'm not sure. Probably all of you have a different topic. But citing the latest publication is to show at least to show readers that you understand the topic itself. And next is to check on the structure on your journal target. You need to see the previous published paper in this journal. Either, for example, in here I show an example of chapter 4 is result and discussion, but different journal they have chapter 4 is result and chapter 5 is discussion. So it's sometimes different. In most cases, different journals they have different structure. So it's better for you to check on those previous published paper in this journal, and you use the structure for your submission in the journal. And then you need to double check the documents. So this part is basically if you have co-author from different country or different, I mean the same field but different different country, for example, at least you can ask him or her to double check on the documents, because in many cases we think that our writing is good, but probably if someone our co-author read the structure or our writing, that they might have some input and some additional comments on that one. So you need, as a group, you need to agree on submitting the final document that is approved by all those author lists. And this is probably my last additional note, that English proofread, probably you need, probably you don't. It depends on you. But again, it will refer to the funding. If you have funding, you can go and submit to an English proofread company, for example. But if you don't, then you need to, let's say, have a co-author which have an English fluent language. So it will help the manuscript. But in general, English proofread is especially when some reviewer, they look at the author list is not from English prone native speaker. They sometimes they just put it that the English is not good and blah blah blah. So in those comment to reply to this comment, sometimes we need to show, you need to show that, okay, this manuscript have been proofread in this company, for example, or we have a co-author list from native English speaker, for example. So basically, all those notes you need to take for your submission process. So this is my last comment. Stay strong and good luck. And thank you, SAADRI. So I'll leave back to you.
Thank you very much to Dr. Gulsan and also Dr. Indra for the very good presentation. So we have the last
Dr. Haniba, can you bring your audio?
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Gulsan and also Dr. Indra for very comprehensive presentation. We have 5 minutes for question and answer. So if there is any question, you can drop in the chat room. I think there is already one question. Just from Arianingsi. I just wondering which one is better, publishing paper based on quartile journal or impact factor? I found that Q2 journal has low impact factor sometimes. Also, I found Q3 journal sometimes have more impact factor. Yeah, maybe this can be answered both by Dr. Endra and Dr. Gu.
Okay, let me answer first, and then probably Dr. Gulsan will add further comments. So, to my knowledge, I think it depends on your requirement. For example, if you are in Indonesia, our institution did not require impact factor, but they require the quartile journal. So they just so our ministry, for example, they look at the journal, the quartile journal of our paper, let's say Q1 or Q2 or Q3. But in if I look at the whole community itself, the whole scientific community in my field, for example, in earthquake science or in tectonics, geodynamics, and so on. So they don't look at the quartile. They look at the journal itself, the impact factor of the journal itself. So basically, you can look at the its index of the journal, and basically that's tell you how the journal. But that's number, it's different, quite different with the Q1, Q2. So again, it depends on your requirement. If you think that you don't need to publish in Q1 or Q2, then you can get submit to the highest impact factor journal. And that's highest impact factor journal doesn't necessarily Q1, but although at some time at some journal they have it's correlated, but in some journal they don't higher impact factor journal doesn't mean that it's Q1. But if you require journal, I mean the ministry or your institution require you to submit to Q1 journal, then you should submit to the journal that the required category that is being requested. I think that's for myself. Please probably another comment. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Indra. Do you have any other comments, Dr. Gulshan?
I also agree with Dr. Indra. He has explained that it's depend on your condition. Some institution must need that your publication should have impact factor. Even the impact factor, there are some ranges that you should have this impact factor high or low. Some maybe even in some countries who are not so good in publication, they even don't care about the impact factor. They just the publication. Maybe some journal which is at least reviewed journal, peer reviewed journal, but may not have impact factor. So impact factor, or depending on the Q1, Q2, Q3, which categories you want, you need to find the condition of your institution or your promotion requirement. But those who are very beginner, they don't care about, I feel from my personal opinion, that they should target the peer reviewed journal. Definitely not any normal journal, but peer reviewed, at least some minimum standard, then gradually they can go, I think. Is it okay? I'm not sure that my answer satisfied.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gulshan and Dr. Indra as well. So I think with the time limitation, we only limit to one question. So again, thank you very much, Dr. Indra and Dr. Gulshan.
Thank you very much.
There is a Mentimeter in the link correlated with the presentation of Dr. Indra and Dr. Gulshan. So please,
Thank you very much.
please try to answer the Mentimeter. Thank you very much again, Dr. Indra and Dr. Gulshan. And I return back to Devalina.
Yeah, Rehema, I would like to add one thing here. Really, we are so much thankful to all the speakers who brought very new attitude towards this critical writing, which is going to help, I believe, to all the budding researchers. At the same time, I will request Madam Gulshan that if you can just respond to the chat questions which are already in the chat box, because of time, we could not really have that interaction in person, because we have to also complete this program. So if you just take care of those questions and you answer, then that will really help the attendees, I believe. Thank you. Yeah, please, Devolina, Rehema.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think so. Please try the Mentimeter link that has been shared. You can go to menti.com and put the code of 46345 306. Thank you very much, Dr. Emra Gunawan, for being with us and sharing to all the audience on the tips to write a good journal as the first author. So, yeah, I think Debalina, I return back to you to have the representative from SAADRI YPP.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hanifa. Now I'd request Professor S. Srikrishnan to give his presentation about SAADRI Young Professional Platform. Over to you, sir.
Somehow directly or indirectly related to the critical writing workshop participants, because we represent the young professionals within the SAADRI membership. So this is created with an objective to nurture young minds in right direction so that they can be proud ambassadors for the SAADRI. And this information is essential to be shared with all the participants and also the co-organizers of this event. So I sincerely thank Professor Mahua Mukherjee and also Professor Rajiv Shah to giving this platform for SAADRI YPP to represent ourselves here. So the objective of the formation of SAADRI YPP is to educate students at the primary and secondary level with disaster awareness and knowledge. And this is possible only with the support of young professionals such as PhD students and stakeholders, who are early career researchers in different capacities in different organizations. So the main objective is to raise awareness of the disaster so that children become harbingers of change. But this knowledge of whatever we are talking in the disaster domain has to be transferred to the young students so that in future they will be resilient and they will be understand of disaster risk reduction and management. So, as SAADRI's main motivation and coverage is on South Asia, so we are back with the solid reason that why we focus on South Asia, because this South Asian region has serious implications for with high such population and also people with poor economy and marginalized and are at risk. So, as part of SAADRI's YPP's primary education intervention, we have started our pilot applications focusing on these five nations. And at the headquarters of SAADRI, we are organizing an event very soon, that is on January 28, 2022. I will share this information in the following slides. So our target group is to educate primary level and secondary level students, but not directly involving with the students. We want to find like trainers whom we can train. So in that case, we identified 5 schools which is located inside Indian Institute of Technology Roorkee's campus, which is also the headquarters of SAADRI. And we have activities planned according to the curriculum level of primary and secondary education intervention. So this is for the secondary, and the activity what we are starting in January 28, it's mainly of a secondary education level. So this is the synopsis of the disaster awareness training program, which will be organized in 28 January 2022. I ran it quick considering the time, and also thank you for all the patience from the participants, also the co-organizers to be part of this event. And finally, I would like to thank our team of SAADRI YPP. These are our team members, and also Professor Mahua Mukherjee, Secretary General SAADRI, for giving me this opportunity. Last but not least, but I would also request all the participants to fill their SAADRI membership form. You can scan this QR code here. We will also share the information through email with all the participants. And thank you, everyone. Over to you, Devlina.
Thank you very much, sir, for your introduction about SAADRI YPP. Now I'd like to thank all, everyone present here, all our attendees, and especially our speakers who gave their time and they gave a brief presentation on how the students can give effective writing outcomes. Now I'd like to request Professor Mahua Mukherjee to give her concluding remarks on this workshop.
Thank you, Devolina. Before I come for this concluding remarks, can I request Rehema to speak for a minute or so? Rehema? Yeah, please.
Thank you very much for Mahua, and also thank you very much to Dr. Rajarsi, Dr. Madam Gulshan, and also Dr. Endra Gunawan to provide the insights, also tips on how to write, how not to get rejected, how to be the first author, and also how to do the critical writing from everyone. But if I may, so I think it really the first is our motivation. So I think like all of us, I think currently attending this workshop mean that we need the skills to be able to write, and then we have a series of tips that has been developed. The first is because we are not English native, but still we can provide our writing skills, and also having it in proofreading. Once we can put our writing in systematical manners. So I think the first is actually this is also from Endra Gunawan. Every day write one paragraph, anything we can start to write, and after that we can make it more systematic and make it more easy to understand, and then making sure that our composition, we remember the scheme provided by Dr. Gulshan. Our composition is good enough, so not too many on the introduction but very poor on the result, for example, but we have a good composition from all the parts, and then once we cook all our paper, so don't do the half cook but do the whole cook. Once we can cook all our paper, then we can try to find the journal. There is already a very good link from Elsevier that we can try. And then don't be afraid to try the Q1 journal. If we can always try Q1 journal, if we fail Q1 journal, we go to Q2. But if our target is already low, then our quality will be low. So if our target is high, we will try our best to get a good quality. So I think having target of Q1 journal or high good impact factor journal is very important. And I believe that the speakers here are keen to also receive our questions for further elaboration, so we can really cook our journal and be published to the journal publication. Also, don't be satisfied with only one publication, but if possible, it will be our lifetime journey. So after one publication, we try another publication, and that will be our legacy of our knowledge that is maintained through the journal publication. So I think that is wrap up from me, and back to you, Prof. Mahua. And thank you very much. I really learned a lot and get motivated again to myself.
Very truly, Rehma, you inspire. Yeah. So, yeah, I think for the attendees, you got a very nice, I will say, all the speakers, whatever they said over this 1.5 hours, Rehma brought a very nice gist out of it. I'm really thankful. And I am thankful to the speakers because they took out time from their busy schedule, and they have shared their presentations. They have also had explained it as much as it was possible, and they could answer, they could interact with the attendees. I'm thankful to Shiva for bringing the SAADRI YPP in forefront. And Debolina, it was a very nicely you conducted this program. I'm so very hopeful for our SAADRI YPP and SAADRI initiatives. And the attendees, I think I need to really thank you a lot from my heart, and because it is also a learning with you, we also learned a lot from the speakers. So I really thank all of you, and I could see consistently you are here. So that gives us a very strong conviction that yes, these type of workshops are necessary. And I think we will come back again with Professor Rajiv Shah, Rehema. We can come back again and we continue to do this. And I have probably few more declarations sort of, like all of you will be getting the speakers presentations. It will be in our SAADRI website. Within a week, you will get our certificates signed by Rehema, Professor Rajiv Shah, and me. And anything else, if I forgot, you can always contact all the speakers individually and also to us. With this, I would like to really thanks again to all of you, Rehma, Rajiv, and all the speakers, Rajeshri, Gulshan, and Gunavan. Thank you. Thank you. याद है बोलिए ना.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Uh, I thank everyone once again for your participation in this workshop, and I thank all our guest speakers. Thank you very much. I
The
also
polls
thank
are
our
over. The polls, you got the responses.
yes, ma'am, we have got the responses.
It will be interesting if you put that poll thing. It will be very interesting. You can put it on the website and you can also share it with Rehema and Rajiv.
Okay, ma'am, I'll share that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. Mahua, Madam Wilson, Delina, Iris, everyone.